It's three of them.
You know, so like.
So there's one pretty good. You're right.
Yeah.
It's in the park. I think great.
Yeah.
All right, let's call this council public hearing to order. It's Wednesday, May 17th, time 6:30 p.m. The topic is annexation of 35046 Maple Street, James and Eileen Bay. I'll turn it over to our city planner, David Gretchen.
Thank you, Mayor Scholl.
Yep.
This is a quasi judicial land use hearing. The subject of this hearing is a request for an annexation. Such a property is identified on the county assessor's map as lot 1800 on map 4 North 1 West 8BC. The applicant is James and Eileen May. The owner is Jason Rule and Melissa McDowell. Because quasi judicial proceedings require the observance of certain procedural formalities, we must take a few moments to cover some preliminary matters and required statements, even though we don't have much of an audience. Does any member of the council wish to declare ex parte contact, conflict of interest, or bias in this matter?
I've had no contact, but I do know Randy and Eileen. Yeah, no contact.
You don't feel like that will influence your decision?
No.
He knows everybody, so.
It is St. Helens, yes. Does anyone from the audience, virtual or in person, want to object to the ability of the counselor to make a fair decision? Generally, the order of proceedings will be as follows: required statements, which I'm doing now, staff report, which will follow, and then applicant's presentation, if they're here, those in favor, neutral, those opposed, any rebuttal, final questions, close of the record, deliberations, and decision. Following statements required to be made at the commencement of the hearing pursuant to City Code and ORS 197-763 sub 5. Following is a list of applicable substantive criteria for the decision. St. Helens Municipal Code 1708-040, 1728-030, and 1711-2030. All testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the applicable substantive criteria as described. Other criteria in the plan, such as the comprehensive plan, land use regulation, or that found in the development code, which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue, including constitutional or other issues related to the proposed conditions of approval in this hearing in person or in writing, or failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the approving authority an opportunity to respond to the issue, precludes appeal to LUBA, the Land Use Board of Appeals, on that issue, and precludes an action for damages in circuit court. So this is an annexation. We've seen many of them. We have 3 tonight. This one actually goes back to March of 2022. So we've had it for more than a year now. And if you recall, back in March, we were juggling with our sanitary sewer issue. And what I didn't want to do is spend a bunch of time putting this together, having hearings, and just have it shot down. So we wanted to make sure that stuff was kind of ironed out, figured out how we were going to handle it before we really went through. And so we kind of sat on this a little bit for that purpose. And here we are. The purpose of the annexation is to connect to a sanitary sewer. It's an existing home. It's not a new home. I think if I remember right, well, there was a home sale and probably an inspection, and they may have seen some issues with the on-site system and how to connect. I think that was the story. In any case, when we allow a connection, we require the consent to annex to allow the connection. The annexation itself does not have to complete, but the consent just gets on their deed and says we can annex them. So here we are. The map that I think would be good to see is this one here. So it's easy to identify because it's just north of our Millard Road property. We actually have 2 annexations side by side. They're highlighted in yellow. This particular one is the one on the left. You can see it's along the creek there on the south side. In this case, there was 2 potential zoning options based on the comprehensive plan designation, R7 or R10. The planning commission chewed on it and determined that R10 was the appropriate recommendation to provide to the council based on larger lots, encumbrances with wetlands and floodplain and riparian area, we don't have any beef with that. There's some other recommendations, but they're kind of default, just technicalities. So the easy thing to do in this case, unless you have a problem, is just to acknowledge and uphold the planning commission's recommendation.
You want to open it up to the public?
So this is an opportunity for the applicant who is not here. So you want to talk about this one? No, you probably just want to talk about yours.
Yes, yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, okay. Nobody did provide
Okay.
testimony.
So hearing none, this hearing is closed. Let's see if we can find that. Okay, we'll call this council public hearing to order. It's Wednesday, May 17th, time 6:40 p.m. The topic is annexation of 35082 Nickel Street, Annexations. I'll turn it over to our city manager, Gretchen.
Thank you, Mayor Scholl. This is a quasi judicial land use hearing. The subject of this hearing is a request for an annexation. The subject property is identified on the county assessor map as lot 1900 on map 4 North 1 West 8BC. The applicant is Travis Jenkins and the owner is the same. Because quasi judicial proceedings require the observance of certain procedural formalities, we must take a few moments to cover some preliminary matters and required statements. First of all, does any member of the council wish to declare an ex parte contact, conflict of interest or bias in this matter? Crickets, good.
We don't know him.
Are you sure? Anyone from the audience want to object to the ability of a counselor to make a fair decision? And that means anybody in person or virtual. Didn't think so. Generally, the order of proceedings will be as follows: required statements, which I'm doing now, staff report, applicant's presentation, if they're here, those in favor of the applicant, neutral testimony, those opposed, rebuttal by the applicant, final questions, close of the record, deliberations, and decision. Following statements are required to be made at the commencement of the hearing pursuant to the city code and ORS 197.763 sub 5. Following is a list of applicable substantive criteria for this decision. St. Helens Municipal Code 17.08040, 17.28030, and 17.112030. All testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the applicable substantive criteria as described or other criteria in the plan, such as the comprehensive plan or land use regulations, such as that found in the development code, which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue, including constitutional or other issues related to the proposed conditions of approval in this hearing, in person or in writing, or failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the approving authority an opportunity to respond to the issue, precludes appeal to LUBA, the Land Use Board of Appeals, on that issue, and precludes an action for damages in circuit court. So with all that stuff, seeing that as forward. So this is an annexation, and it's very much like the last one. We received this one in August, so we knew the sewer stuff a little bit more, but it was one I wanted to wait on just to make sure we didn't run into any bumps in the road. And this is an annexation again for a connection to sewers, a slightly different scenario than the adjacent property in that it was already a property developed with a home, but they wanted to put a new home on it. And that's what triggered the need to connect to the sewer. I think they're keeping the old home, they're just converting it to a accessory structure, which is, you see that fairly common in the county. Just like the other property, we have two zoning choices, R7 or R10. No surprise, the Planning Commission is providing the same recommendation on this one as the prior with the R10 zoning to be consistent. And maybe we should have made these public hearings only 5 minutes instead of 10. So everything would be default as recommended by the Planning Commission if you agree with the R10 zoning. And it's really that simple.
Sounds good. Open up to anybody and
So I know the applicant is not here. Does anybody want to testify on this matter in support, in opposition, or neutral whatsoever? We do have someone new there.
all right, not seeing any, so
No,
okay, annexation hearings.
It's like fun.
Very exhilarating.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and call this council public hearing to order. It's Wednesday, May 17th, time is 6:50 p.m. Topic is annexation of 58927 for Lot Park. Tony and Robert Loveland. I'll go ahead and bring over to our associate planner, deliberations.
Thank you, Mayor. I was associate planner at one time.
I was gonna say, he's city planner. When you said that, I was like,
It's been a long day.
Okay, you can call me the janitor. Give me the same feedback.
motion.
This is a quasi judicial land use hearing. The subject of this hearing is a request for an annexation. Such a property is identified in the county assessor map as lot 2000 on map 4 north, 1 west, 8BB. The applicant is Tony and Robert Loveland. The owner is the same. Because quasi judicial proceedings require the observance of certain procedural formalities, we must take a few moments to cover some preliminary matters and required statements. Does any member of the council wish to declare an ex parte contact, conflict of interest, or bias in this matter? Nope. Does anyone from the audience, virtual or in person, want to object to the ability of the counselor to make a fair decision? Any frowning faces? Generally, the order of proceedings would be as follows: required statements, which I'm doing now, staff report, applicant's presentation, those in favor of the application, neutral testimony, those opposed, rebuttal by the applicant, final questions, close of the record, deliberations, and decision. Following statements are required to be made at the commencement of the hearing pursuant to City Code ORS 1977763 sub 5. Following is a list of applicable substantive criteria for the decision. St. Helens Municipal Code 17.08.040, 17.28.030, and 17.112.030. All testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the applicable substantive criteria as described or other criteria in the plan, such as the comprehensive plan or land use regulations, such as that found in the development code, which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue, including constitutional or other issues related to the proposed conditions of approval in this hearing, in person, or in writing, or failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the approving authority an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to LUBA, the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue, and precludes an action for damages in circuit court. So with those statements out of the way, on annexation, the third one that we're talking about tonight, kind of in the same neighborhood, a little further away from the other ones. So this is one we received in February, and this is the one that kind of was the catalyst to, oh, okay, we got to get these annexations moving. So that's why we have 3, even though they were kind of staggered over time. This one is kind of similar to the other ones in that it's for the purposes of connection to sanitary sewer, although it's an eventual connection. It's not a connection that has already happened. Another common reason that we receive annexations is so people can utilize our rules. Sometimes they prefer our rules to the counties, and they also want to utilize our rules that allow the second dwelling unit, which we talked about at length previously, and, 2 years ago. So they just want to gear up to satisfy their dreams for the property, essentially, and that includes coming into the city. As far as zoning options, there's only one, apartment residential, so we don't even have to think about that. And so it's basically, if you don't have any issue, you can approve it as recommended by the Planning Commission. Pretty straightforward. That's really the extent of my presentation. We do have someone representing the owner and applicant here. So that would be an opportunity for you to speak if you would so like.
I can just tell you briefly a bit. I'm Tony Loveland, and my brother and I, we recently purchased a house on Furlough Park. And during the inspection process, we were told the septic system wasn't very good and would soon need to be replaced. So we looked into it in the city sewer system instead of replacing the septic system. Our backyard includes a portion of McNulty Creek. better. There was that. Looking up to the city sewer as opposed to another septic system, and also we're considering building a second unit, which would be about 800 square feet. So that was
Welcome, sales.
Thank you for coming up.
And we'll just go ahead and open it up for any public testimony now.
Yeah, does anybody else have testimony on this? Didn't think so.
Okay, the hearing is adjourned. We'll go ahead and call this council regular session to order. It's Wednesday, May 17th, time is 7 p.m. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we open up the public comment, I'm gonna go ahead and read a statement on House Bill 3115. Mission of the city of St. Helens is to provide quality and effective and efficient services to our citizens. By doing so, the St. Helens City Council is committed to developing and preserving the highest possible quality of life for our residents, businesses, and visitors. Provide a safe and healthy environment with sound economic framework, and provide leadership that is open and responsive to the needs of the community and work for the benefit of all. It is with these goals in mind that the city council and city staff have worked to develop an ordinance in response to House Bill 3115, which was passed by Oregon legislation in 2021. House Bill 3115 impacts all Oregon cities and counties and is mandatory law. Even if you don't agree with the law and don't like it, the city has to comply with it, just like all other cities and counties. The bill requires that all cities and counties in the state to review their public space rules and adopt laws that are objective, reasonable to people experiencing houselessness. When it comes to regulating the act of sitting, lying, sleeping, or keeping warm and dry outdoors on public property open to the public. The city of St. Helens has been proactive in reviewing the rules since the bill was passed. City staff began meeting in 2021 to discuss House Bill 3115 and what it might mean to St. Helens. We have closely followed the updates from the League of Oregon City on the issues, and in 2022 and 2023, the city reached out to community partners such as Community Action, CCMH, law enforcement, relevant boards and commissions to gather feedback. The city council has attended several joint meetings with the planning commission to hear their recommendations. The city has been working with specialized legal counsel to ensure whatever rules we change continue to provide safe and livable community while complying with the new state law. From the start, the St. Helens City Council has expressed opposition to create encampments in St. Helens. St. Helens does not have the same issues as seen in larger cities across the state. We are committed to keeping it that way. We support our law enforcement and empower our officers to address crime. We support creating reasonable rules to ensure safe and livable communities. We support clean streets and parks where people feel safe and shop and play. We want businesses to feel supported and confident to move to our community. Our local police work closely with Community Action, CCMH, to find solutions to address houseless needs in our community. In the past, these groups have partnered to meet the needs of houseless individuals in St. Helens. They will continue to do so. We support them in their efforts. For several months, we have been reviewing and refining proposals of what the St. Helens rules should be. The consensus from the city council has consistently included keeping camping out of our city parks and away from our residential areas. This discussion and decisions made by the city council today are not maintain the livability and safety for our community and complying with the law. So I just wanted to read that because I know there's been a lot of controversy over the House bill. We're not for it. So with that, we'll open it up for public comment. Please go up and state your name for the record and keep it to 3 minutes or less.
Yes, we'll go. You guys mind if we pull up a couple more chairs?
Sure.
Nice being in person, actually, works better than online. So, for the record, my name is Jennifer Massey. I'm a St. Helens resident. However, today I'm actually here speaking to you as the president of a nonprofit organization that was based or founded here in Columbia County for transparency and accountability for elected and appointed officials. So it's obvious to many that I have been more publicly outspoken in the last, few months, 4 months than I typically have. Every once in a while I'll pop in. But I want to make it crystal clear that when I'm making public comments, especially like when I'm dealing or addressing things with like law enforcement, it's not based on any political climate. It's not based on any vengeance. What it's based on is the fact that I personally have reviewed over 200 hours of my time of a deceased 18-year-old girl in this county. I've reviewed the records. And during this case, I personally realized that there were many, many written lies, missteps, lack of professionalism. There was lack of care and compassion for a desperate family looking for answers in this county. I believe our sheriff to be a liar. I have no respect for him as a human being or a law enforcement officer, and I have no problem saying that. Now, I realize most people haven't read Sarah Zuber's case file. Most people haven't read the emails, the patronizing disrespect for this family that was suffering and looking for answers, or they haven't looked at the autopsy photos. So I realize that there is a disconnect there, but there is a list of provable lies that has been and is being continuously created for the situation. And many others that we have come upon. So during this time, our team, the Justice for Sarah team, had opened a Pandora's box. We weren't prepared for it. I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't know what to expect. I thought I was just helping this family because I gave a mother my word as she is crying across the table that I was the only glimmer of hope. And that's what I did. So once we started this, it became a public outpouring of a demand for transparency and accountability. People have been mistreated. People feel like there's been substandard work by elected or appointed officials. And so we created a Facebook page to bring more of that to light. We have been inundated. We created a nonprofit organization for this specific reason. And then the elephant in the room, the sheriff's levy passed last night. I personally think this is a great part of democracy. I mean, campaigns and elections, that's what's supposed to happen. That's where people can choose to cast their vote, and they do. And whatever the people, choose, they speak on and you move on. And so I was prepared to be here today, regardless of the way this, but we're all up here together.
Yeah, so I'll give you a little more time.
We planned this out. And tested it. So anyway, and we're actually all on the nonprofit organization and the Justice for Sarah Zuber team. So anyway, they could choose to cast a vote. So I was planning on attending today either way, right? So my goal for today is to specifically reiterate the power of influence, we're missing two, that council members hold in the eye of the public, right? You guys are in profound positions. So when things come to you that require an opinion to be rendered on, that it's expected that you do your due diligence, right? That you can have evidence and facts. So I went back and listened to a lot of meetings, many times over the last 2 meetings, several of you included in those two especially, stated that you support the levy, but you support it, but it was up to the people, the citizens, to vote, which is true, right? But to say a letter would not persuade voters, based on our public comments, we believe that an irresponsible and ignorant statement. People do expect you to do research. People trust you. That's why you're in your positions. The optics that were presented at the last 2 council meetings, as the levy was discussed, was embarrassing and appalling. Again, kudos to Mayor Hugh Rickschel and the president, a council president, for standing the ground on requesting data and ensuring that the levy would benefit the citizens, like patrol on Sand Island. During the April 19th meeting, it was unanimous that there were too many unanswered questions about the levy and that a resolution was not supported at this time. It appeared our council was trying to be fiduciarily responsible for the citizens that you represent in the city, not the county. During the council conversations on May 3rd, Councilman Burkle stated that after the April 19th meeting himself, and the police commissioner had a private meeting at Starbucks to discuss the levy. The optics of this do not fare well for many citizens. Why would a conversation not take place on March or May 3rd where the sheriff presented and everybody could be aware of the conversations that clearly changed your opinion? The optics do not appear copacetic. While reviewing the videos, as there was much dialogue, but did not identify the nuts and bolts of the levy, such as the fact that there's no auditing function in place, there's no budget provided, and if this was a football game, it would not be played to the utopic amount of red flags that have been thrown out and presented by the FOIA requests that appears to be erroneous data that the councilman Berkelson even don't clear out, this data, the data on the table, the work of FOIA requests, it's called research, not words. This shows over 6,000 calls for service discrepancies and the newly acquired CCOM calls for Q1, Q4 calls. So right off the bat, you could take off 910 calls for service, but why would anybody care about that?
Adam Shapier, St. Helens resident. I like to also comments regarding the optics. The optics are really bad. What it looks like is, the private conversation between Councilman Burkle and Sundin perked a lot of interest and major focus. As citizens right now are really worried about transparency and accountability. We've seen it. We see a lot of it based off of our Facebook page and how many people come to us with information. We're here trying to expose the Good Old Boys Network and what that conversation looked like. With the Good Old Boys, we had a little, conversation on the side, and we came to some conclusions outside of council. It looks bad. It was even mentioned by a couple of council people like, oh yeah, we've got some, input from our constituents. Most of them are against it, but yet we went off of emotion and not data. The emotion was, we're going to go with what we feel rather than what our constituents want. The appearance is you're looking out for emotional rather than data. This is why our nonprofit organization has submitted FOIA request for the St. Helens City Council on all communications regarding the levy, as we believe there is possible some bullying and persuasive behavior that is ensued as reflected by the initial comments and amenity for voting. Your job as elected officials is to be responsible for the citizens of St. Helens, not the rest of the county. To remind you of the laws, you are public officials, and Oregon law requires public bodies, including their employees, to maintain public records in accordance with their retention schedules, ORS 192.108. The general consensus for the three councilmen due to your appeared emotional, not data-driven decisions, you should provide a public apology to the citizens that did research and were against the levy, that they were paying possibly $240 per year for police services, unlike the rest of the county that will be paying $116. We are going to be getting only based on 50% of the services provided to the rest of the county. We're only going to be getting 50% here in the city as opposed to what we're paying for. It's ridiculous. Additionally, citizens have expressed opinions that the sheriff does not implement 24/7 coverage within 6 months, which he already has enough staff for today based on public records. That the three of you that voted for the levy should probably just resign. We look forward to getting our records request fulfilled, and remember, it's against the law to delete things. I encourage you to go back and watch your own videos, watch your own statements. It's pretty interesting. You should base your decisions based on data, not emotion. You should have asked for a timeline. You should have asked for the data. That data right there is all there about all the records, all the staffing, all the budgetary, all the stuff that some of you asked for but didn't receive, unless there was some back channel stuff that happened. If there's no expectation, there's no accountability. The data's right there. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
State your name for the record, please.
Nick Helmick. From the states. The following statement is solely my personal opinion and do not be interpreted as an allegation or factual claim. It's important to consider different perspectives and conduct further research to form a well-rounded understanding of the topic at hand. Ladies and gentlemen of the St. Helens City Council, I sit before you today to address a matter of utmost importance concerning the integrity and transparency of our city's biggest business permits division. With great concern that I bring to your attention the allegations of corruption and favoritism within this division, and as well as persuasive influence of a good old boys club mentality that appears to be undermining the very foundation of our downtown business structure. First and foremost, it has come to my attention that the person responsible for overseeing the issuance of permits in our city has been accused of engaging in corrupt practices. The report suggests that this individual seeks personal gain by leveraging their position to extract goods and services from local entrepreneurs in exchange for the approval of permits. That behavior not only erodes the distrust that business place in our local government, but also stifles economic growth and innovation within our community. Moreover, it is disheartening to learn that the treat them like God mentality seems to be prevalent when dealing with this permit person. It creates an unhealthy power dynamic where individuals seeking permits are forced to navigate a system that favors personal connections and appeasement over merit and fair judgment. This system perpetuates an unjust hierarchy that hampers the growth of new business as they are left feeling excluded and powerless and that they are part of the so-called in crowd. The repercussions of such a system are far-reaching. Many potential entrepreneurs who could contribute to the vibrancy and diversity of our downtown are deterred from starting businesses in St. Helens due to the fear of retaliation. The climate of intimidation and fear of retribution for speaking up against perceived injustices undermine the principles of fairness, equality, and open dialogue that should guide our local governance. It is disheartening to hear that local business owners, amongst others, have expressed that sentiment that knowing the right people is a prerequisite for starting a business in St. Helens. This exclusionary mindset not only limits opportunities for talented and hardworking individuals, but also fosters an environment of favoritism and unequal under the law. We must strive for a level playing field where every entrepreneur has an equal chance to succeed based on the merit of their ideas and hard work rather than their connections. As residents and citizens, we should not have to live in fear of our local government. We deserve a transparent and accountable system that serves the best interests of our community, free from any form of retaliation against those who seek to improve it. We need a business permits division that promotes fairness, rewards innovation, and fosters an inclusive environment that encourages entrepreneurship and growth for all. Therefore, I implore the City of St. Helens City Council to thoroughly investigate the allegations of corruption within the permits division. Take necessary actions to ensure that ethical standards are upheld, that transparency is prioritized, and that the interests of the community come before personal gain or influence. Our city's success relies on an open and fair business environment where entrepreneurs can thrive based on their skills, talents, and dedication. Let's work together to dismantle any barriers that prevent individuals from realizing their dreams and starting a business in St. Helens. Let us create a community where entrepreneurs, regardless of their connections or affiliations, can contribute to the growth and prosperity of our beloved city. Thank you.
Other comments?
All right, my name is Dylan Gaston. I'm currently the president of the St. Helens Police Association. Earlier today, the St. Helens Police Association sent a letter to council and city administration. I'm not here to regurgitate that letter. It's available on our Facebook page. Anybody that wants to see it, I can provide a copy. I just want to reiterate to everyone how concerned the association is with our staffing. We're okay right now. We work tons of overtime. We're all behind on our work, but we're getting by. Our primary concern is 2024. We have multiple confirmed retirements happening in the fall of 24. The problem is if we wait until that time to hire, it's going to be too late. With how long the academy and training takes, we'd be way behind the curve if we wait until that point for staff. I realize the council has 1 million people asking them for 1 million different things. That being said, I think law enforcement needs to be a priority. The council just supported the sheriff's office levy, which is fantastic. That means that I'm hoping the council can carry that support over to the St. Helens Police Department when it comes to deciding whether to fill a vacant position for this upcoming year. Overall, I think we're paid fairly. I appreciate you guys working on the new stations being worked on. I just don't want that support on those issues to replace support on staffing, which I think should be top priority, and is top priority for a lot of the association. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Officers at work today.
Yes. Other comments?
Stephen Toski, citizen of St. Helens. Yes, it's Transparency Day here at the council. I was very happy to hear that the council went ahead with a proposal to move forward that keeps homeless people, or even not homeless people, anyone, from camping in our neighborhoods. When I saw the City of Rainier ordinance tagged onto the agenda, I was very concerned that council might go in that direction. And I held a public meeting to make sure that people understood what's going on.
And I just wanted to make sure that council hears for the record. More than 100 people showed up. And I was thinking if the council goes for this Rainier thing, I find another 500 people to show up at the next meeting. And I'm glad the council didn't go in that direction and my worries were for nothing. I understand that St. Helens has a difficult decision to make regarding the new laws for camping in public. I'm signing this petition to urge the city council to adopt a measure that does not allow public camping and will not result free camping within 400 feet of homes, near businesses, in parks, on trails, or on the waterfront. And the people who signed that there are a lot of people from other cities, but I went through and there were more than 106 signatures. These are all City of St. Helens people, and I'm going to say who also are business owners. Ray Boswell, business owner. Dave Senti, citizen. Dale Price, citizen. Melanie Beach, citizen. Rosemary Sickles, citizen. Diane Dillard, citizen and business owner. Jen Phillips, Sandra Gladfelter, Nathan Johnson, Richard McKenzie, Allie Ashley is an employee of the business in St. Helens and wants the street to be safe going to and from work. Lauren Dinky, citizen business owner. Michael North Jr., Gary Lafferty, Stacy Lafferty, Julie Kelly, citizen and business owner. Sabrina Moore, citizen and business owner. Damon Moore, Deanna Euler, Wayne Courier, Tom McMahon, business owner. Carolyn Ann Coop, Stephanie Patterson, citizen and business owner. Randy Cox, Ali Engelhart, citizen and business owner. Laura Thaler, Paul Thaler, Tony Williams, Steve Toski, citizen and business owner. Robin Toski, citizen and business owner. Debbie Reed, citizen. Kyler Roden, business manager, downtown St. Helens business. Andrew Bliss, business owner. Gail Burke, business owner. Michelle Fang, Al Peterson, citizen and business owner. Kanika Peterson, citizen and business owner. Lisa Miller, Matt Broadberg, Jeremy Johnson, business owner. Shannon Schaefer, Kevin Shipman, Darcy Elsie, Christina Larson, business owner. Dave Lauritsen, business owner. Michelle Palmer, Linda Mentioner, Daniel Brown, Shirley Nagel, Tiffany Collard, Joan Douglas, Jeff Burton, Cindy Caruso, Mike Dorn, Art Leskovich, Sonia Fogarty, Susan Branch, Sue Turner, Chris Chincher, Mary Hubbard, Melissa Courier, Corey Engelhart, Jill Carson, Stacy Brandt, Keith Forsyth, Steve Palmer, E. Duclos, Irene Huron.
Steve, I hate to interrupt.
All right,
Okay.
I had another few names, but you get the idea.
But I would like to have a copy of what was read on the top because you said no encampments. That was not what was proposed from the city, from the planning commission, and you have been very adamant on actually having an encampment. So that is very misleading because Matt Broadbent, the name that you, and I've got him on my phone, I can call him right now. I've been in contact with him, was misled by a no encampment on the top that what you just read, reread it.
I understand St. Helens has a
Okay.
difficult decision to make regarding the new laws for camping in public. I'm signing this petition to urge the city council to adopt a measure that does not allow
Yes.
public camping and will not result in camping, let me say, and will not result in camping within 400 feet of homes, near businesses, in parks, on trails, or on the waterfront.
Yep.
That's all they said.
You're saying no camping and your actual proposal was to adopt a homeless camp.
What this says is
I'm just saying.
no public camping.
Exactly, we heard your presentation and we have been dealing with this for a long time, Mr. Toski.
Okay,
I'm just saying. that
it
was
says what it
misleading.
says.
That was misleading to the public.
It was not.
It's created a lot of
Did you
fear.
hear it?
I did hear it.
Well, good then. Don't
I just
name the
heard
part
it.
that was misleading then, Mayor.
I'll read,
You read it. And approach. Thank you.
May approach. I would like to get a copy of this.
I have an electronic copy that I can give Ms. Payne for part of the public record.
Good. I understand regarding laws, recamping in public. I'm signing this petition to urge the city council to adopt a measure that does not allow public camping.
Public camping and will not result in camping within 400 feet of homes, near
Okay.
businesses, in parks or trails.
An encampment in your
Recommendation.
recommendation.
Okay, so let's understand.
I asked Russ Lowe earlier on the record, and you can watch the video. I'm not gonna get into a big debate here, Mr. Koski, because we're on the other side of this, okay? I just want, you showed back up, we thought we had this solved earlier.
You know, we're keeping an eye on it. Just want to let you know.
Well, that's good, because, but you really, why are you looking at me angrily, Mr. Toski?
Because I feel like I'm being interrupted.
You're the chair of the planning commission.
Hold on, it's a misleading document when it's clear English language.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor Scholl and Councilor.
Not the
I-
wording is there.
I
Your
said that-
presentation along with what you had them sign does not align.
Well, you know
with the
what?
message you were putting out
You
there.
know what? I think that it's very clear what this means, and the fact that you don't understand it is troubling to me.
I have people that have told me that they would not have signed it. They thought it was a sign-in sheet.
You know what?
They didn't know what they were.
You try to make St. Helens into a homeless camp and watch what happens.
Oh,
And
wait,
that's what happened last night.
wait a minute, time out.
You're
We're done here.
Thank you.
Yep, and we'll put out a statement if we have to, Mr. Toski, about the.
Be careful not to defame me,
No,
Mayor
you
Scholl.
are, you're saying that we're trying to bring encampments in here.
Just read this. It's very clear. People understanding this language is disturbing to me.
Hey, I don't appreciate you belittling my council president.
I'm stating the
For
facts,
this
sir.
body, as a planning commissioner chair, you should have a little more respect in your position.
I'm not gonna sit here and be falsely accused of anything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Other visitor comments, please come up and state your name. 3 minutes or less.
Brady Friggheim, I actually wasn't gonna comment tonight, but I decided to. What you're saying is actually accurate. I was at that meeting. People did not know what they were signing. They did not understand it. And in fact, the presentation that was presented verbally said that you were planning on having encampments and letting homeless sleep anywhere they wanted in the city like they did in Rainier. And that was absolutely never what you had said. So contrary to what he's saying, that it was clear and was informed, it was not. As someone that was there, I had people at my own table that didn't understand what it was or what they were planning. And furthermore, even if they did understand, it's 100 people out of 15,000, not really a significant amount. And again, there was a way for him to go about doing that meeting, and there was a way not to do it, and there was a way that he did it was not the way to do it. I think it was very disrespectful to the city. His position as a member of the planning commission, I think is not appropriate that he did that. People posted online that they thought it was a city sponsored event, and it was clearly not a city sponsored event. And while he did say that in the meeting, there were still people that were confused. There were people that came in late that didn't hear that announcement. He had slideshows that you couldn't see at all. And I thought the whole thing was unethical and very unprofessional. And I'm actually sort of happy with the decision that you've made. That homeless camps, I mean, nobody wants that. Your ordinance, I think, that is a middle of the road solution that doesn't actually set a spot, but yet tells you where you can't camp, and I guess we'll see what happens. I think it's very similar to what Scappoose did. Scappoose did a similar thing on Monday by emergency, and that they're telling you where you can't camp, they're not telling you where you can. And I mean, you're sort of following that same pattern, and I guess, you know, hopefully we won't need it. So,
Thank you. Okay, other visitor comment? Okay. Anything on Zoom? Nope. Okay, we're gonna deliberate over the Mill Street, reading in Mill Street. Jacob?
Yes, so where we left off, the public hearing was closed at our last meeting on May 3rd. We deliberated. And you wanted to chew on it, deliberate more, and then for us to confirm some things with Columbia 911. So we have Crystal's presentation, and I'm not going to go to every slide. I think the important one is not that one. Yeah, let's start here. So as far as the overall numbers, we know Twilight was much larger than numbers, but there was some influence. And so Palma was a second, and it's, you know, it's whether or not you want to take that outside influence into account. And then the fifth name, which was just kind of by a popular vote, was Old Mill Way. Now, I think Old Mill Way would look cool on a sign. I think it speaks to the residents of their history. I think it would have a tourist component. Yeah, right on, we're on Old Mill Way, you know, let's go buy some more beer, whatever. Unfortunately, as I suspected, Columbia 911.
Got it down.
Yeah, just because it's too similar to other names. I figured that would be the case, but I didn't want to confirm. So I guess I shouldn't have talked it up just as slam it. So that's off the table. Another thing that we checked on, Sundin schooled us on the proper spelling of Nelly with an E at the end. And I know Nell was kind of not in first place. But so we checked with Columbia 911 on that, and they did not like having that E at the end because it would cause confusion. And if that's the way she spelled it, it seems like it could be considered disrespectful to not put it there. But if you want to consider Nell, you have to consider it without the E. So basically, it's kind of a toss-up between Wapama and Twilight, and whether or not you want to rule Twilight out because of the outside influence, or go with it.
Take it down to next meeting, continue from May
No.
3rd.
Don't pick it anymore. Pick a name.
We've been kicked a lot today.
No decisions.
So, I mean, as staff, we're hoping we're at the point where you've had enough information thrown at you and consider to pick something.
I think we could just go with Wapama. Everybody was kind of, the council as a whole was kind of against the Twilight. I think we knew it was cliche, and we knew a lot of it was outside influence on that.
I feel like I kind of agree, but not necessarily because it's cliche, because I am a Twilight fan myself, so I'm not gonna go that far. But I also don't think that it really represents the citizens of St. Helens, and so that's why I would like to go with Wapama. Wapama.
Do my vote as well. Wapama.
We should, because this is,
Oh.
well, this is gonna be,
Berkeley, can.
Hello? Yeah, hi. I'm going with Wapama.
Excellent.
It's unanimous.
Yep.
I think for formality, we should probably have a motion and all that jazz. There will be an ordinance.
I motion that we rename Mill Street in the Riverfront District to Wapama Way, right? Wapama Way.
Yeah, Wapama Way.
Yeah, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It was unanimous.
Patrick, was that the timing, was that a delayed eye?
It was a delayed aye.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Wapama is the victor.
Okay, let's go on to deliberations on the annexation. Let's kind of talk about all three of them, and then we'll do one at a time, of course, but I think all three are pretty relative from what we heard from recommendations from the planning commission. Not a lot of controversy. Sole problem with if they're close to the sewer, we have to annex. They have to hook up to our sewer, and more likely they are annexed in when that happens. And that was pretty much most of these houses. Right. So. If anybody wants to discuss anything further, but we'll go one at a time. We'll have to make a motion one at a time.
An easy motion, like I said at the hearings, would be as recommended by the planning commission.
So just read the annexation of the address there, and then say I make a motion to annex the address, Maple Street.
A motion to annex the address of 35046 Maple Street as recommended by the planning commission.
Second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Council President Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Sunday.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I as well.
A motion that we annex 35082 Maple Street as recommended by the planning commission.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Council President.
Aye.
Councilor Sunday.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I as well.
Sure. Make a motion.
I don't want to just hog them all.
We annex 58927 Furlock Park Street as recommended by the planning commission.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Council President.
Aye.
Councilor Sunday. Aye. Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I as well. Okay, final reading, ordinance number 3291, an ordinance amending section 6.04 animal control and 8.24 park regulations of the St. Helens Municipal Code, designating additional off-leash dog park and establishing law.
I move we adopt ordinance number 3291 as read.
Second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve ordinance 3291. Any discussion? I think we've discussed it quite in depth, so, Council President,
Aye.
Councilor Sunday.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley,
Aye.
and I as well. Okay, approve and authorize for signature agreement with St. Helens School District for use of facilities.
Motion to approve and or authorize for signature. Agreement with St. Helens School District for use of facilities.
Second.
Okay,
Quick
motion,
discussion.
yep,
Sorry.
yep.
Just can you explain what that is exactly for people that might be listening?
IGA that we have, just working with them to use their gyms and whatnot for our rep program.
That's what I thought, but I just wanted to say it for the record.
Council President Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Sunday.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Appointments to city boards and commissions, appoint Fatima Salsa.
Solace.
Some.
I know where.
Oh,
Key library board.
I was guessing, but
I make a motion that we appoint Fatima Solace to the library board.
second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to appoint Fatima Solace to the library board. Council President Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Sunday.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Consent agenda for acceptance, 8 budget committee meetings dated April 13th, 2023. 9 Parks and Trails Commission minutes dated April 10th, 2023. 10 library board minutes dated April 10th, 2023. 11 planning commission minutes dated April 11th, 2023.
And move that we consent agenda for acceptance items 8, 9, 10, and 11 as read.
Second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve consent agendas 8, 9, 10, and 11. Council President Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Sunday.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Council minutes dated February 15th, March 1st, March 15th, April 5th, and April 12th, 2023. And consent agenda for approval on those dates, and then accounts payable bill list.
Motion that we can approve consent agenda items 12 and 13 as read.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve consent agenda 12 and 13 as read. President Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Sunday.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
You read this?
Yeah.
You think it's biased?
Go ahead.
Right now, or are we
Yeah.
gonna jump, tell
Yeah,
everybody
we have
about
a
work session?
Yeah, it's a work session item. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
work session item. I move that we authorize renewal of the building lease at 215 North Sixth Street to the Alana Club and authorize the city administrator to sign the renewal letter.
Second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the lease renewal Council President Chilton,
Aye.
Councilor Sunday.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well.
Okay, and then another item for the work session. I move that we reappoint Counselor Berkeley to the Columbia Learning Center Board of Directors as the city representative.
I'll second it. Can I second? I can second. Council President Chilton,
Aye.
Councilor Sunday.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley,
Abstain.
yeah, I'm in favor of, so thank you for serving.
Thank you, Counselor Berkeley.
And that's got the black tie blue jean event coming this year, so it's a good cause. Glad to have you there representing us. Okay, let's go on to council member reports. President Chilton.
I have a few things. We went to the chamber dinner, which we had a really lovely time, and I shared a really fun picture on social media, and that was really fun. Seeing quite a few people there, and it was nice to kind of see everyone and see businesses and, just citizens recognized for all their work they do in the community and see a lot of up and coming businesses. And I think it was a really great event, and I was very happy to be there and, felt well supported by the chamber. So thank you for doing that. And then I've recently started attending the childcare task force in Columbia County with like Paul Vogel, a couple of county commissioners, and just a lot of different people in the county. And childcare is a big issue right now, and we're seeing a lot of issues with big childcare centers that are on the verge of closing, which can really, we're already in a crisis. And so if we lose any more in Columbia County, we're really in a crisis for working families. So we are working on and ideas and things that we can do to come together as a county to solve that. So shout out to Shanna Duggan who asked me to become a part of it, and I was really grateful that she asked me. Softball, I've been doing a lot of softball. I know Brady loves it when I talk about softball at this time of the year, but this is my life right now. Softball fields. St. Helens Girls Softball had their opening day weekend, and it was extremely hot, but it was a really fun time. I seen attending there, and just the whole park was full. Campbell was completely full. There was literally no parking left in the whole park. And it's so nice when you see your parks being used that way, and it's just a moment where you take a moment and you're like, wow, like this is something, a resource that the community has that is being utilized to its full extent, and it just feels good to see that happen. So that was a wonderful time. And then this weekend, I am going to be going to the NAMI CCMH Mental Health Fair that they're having in McCormick Park. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to be there, of course, with Avamere, not with the city, but I'm hoping that the city will make an appearance of some sort. I'm looking forward to that. So if anyone's looking for something to do on Saturday, it'll be at McCormick Park from, I believe, 10 to 2. So, and they have a walk going on through the trails of the park also, but a fair with booths and information and a lot of fun activities that Judy Thompson's been working really hard on. She works on it every year. So that's all I have.
Well, time for the turkey to show up. And if you know her, Judy, you know what I'm talking about. Councilor Sunday.
So I too enjoyed the chamber dinner and bringing my wife to meet everybody else's significant others. So it was a fun night, and our council president said just being able to recognize the small businesses and the bigger businesses and individuals that do so much for our community. So it was great enjoying working with this group and getting to know everybody better. And just want to thank everybody for being patient with me. So I am learning a lot. I've got a lot to learn. I guess one of the first things I'm learning is that you can't make everybody happy. And, no matter which way you vote or which decision you come to, there's somebody that's not happy about it. And I don't have all the answers, but I'm trying my best. One thing that I do well is I'm a good listener. So please reach out if you have concerns. I want to hear from people. St. Helens is my home, but it's your home too. So I want to publicly thank the Planning Commission. So we had 3 of our Planning Commission members at our meeting this afternoon. I think that's a kind of a thankless job, but hours of dedication into the work that they do, and some of their meetings go into the late hours of the night. They work hard to keep our city safe and beautiful. And I hope as we move forward with this HB 3115 that we can incorporate as many of their recommendations as possible. Spent a lot of time and a lot of research on that. It's also a pleasure to serve with the Parks and Trails Commissions, very dedicated group of volunteers that do so much good in the community and just are great people. Parks are looking good. They're not perfect, but we're getting there. And I think we had a good report from Mohammed today about some of the improvements that are taking place. We've been spending a lot of time at the softball field too. And I've got some concerns there that concerned about those softball fields going away eventually, because I invite you to go down there tomorrow night and look at that road, and it'll be lined both sides with cars and all three fields being utilized. But every park that I've been to lately, McCormick and Campbell and the softball fields, they're all being used and utilized, which is great to see. I would encourage you to spend some time here in the next few weeks at the memorial for Memorial Day. Again, a beautiful asset to the city. Probably saw we've got an email today from Chief Greenway. We have 2 new officers that started at the police department, so hopefully I don't butcher their names too bad, but Anderson is pretty easy, but then Officer Sprinzel as well. So welcome to them. I look forward to meeting them and getting to know them better. I also wanted to mention though, that this is National Police Week. So National Police Week has been a thing since the early 1960s. President Kennedy started it. And it is to special recognition, especially to law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty. And in St. Helens, we do have one such officer, and that was Marshal Dale Perry, who lost his life in the line of duty just under 100 years ago in 1924. So if you do go to the Veterans Memorial, he has a small plaque as you walk in just to the left, I believe, by one of the big oak trees there. And hoping that in the near future, when we get our new police station, that it can have a fitting spot there at the police station. I just wanted to share a quick quote from President Biden's proclamation this week for National Police Week. There's part of it that stood out to me and that resonated a little bit. It said, when it comes to keeping our communities safe, the answer is not to defund the police. It is to fund them with the resources and training they need to protect and serve our communities and to build trust with the American public. So today, I think we all received it, but received an email directed to the council and administration. And I was asked by Officer Cutright to read this tonight, so I will do that now. He's the vice president of the association. It says, Council and Administration, I previously sent a letter a little over a year ago, February 7, 2022, alerting the council to a staffing shortage in St. Helens. St. Helens is again facing a staffing shortage, and the city needs to immediately hire new officers to fill this shortage. Last year, the council agreed to hire 2 officers and 1 officer in 2023. There have been 2 resignations this year and several retirements confirmed for 2024. Those spots are not going to be filled as the city is not currently hiring any positions. There is also not going to be a new officer hired for 2023 to 2024, reversing the commitment the council made last year. The city has authorized many things, such as a mystery boat that never arrived, a second recreation center, and other projects that should not be prioritized over public safety. This council supported the sheriff's levy, but then takes actions to the detriment of having sufficient officers on the street. Comments at recent budget meetings confirm the intention not to add the officers promised. Support this view and should be re-examined. The city council's decisions are making the city less safe, while the city council has a strategic goal project for fiscal year 2023-24 to decrease crime incidents by 5%, increase traffic safety, and reduce traffic accidents. The failure to follow through with hiring decisions will make the city council's goals worthless. Please give us more officers. On behalf of the St. Helens Police Association, fraternally yours. And again, I hope I don't butcher this name, Daniel E. Thanell, General Counsel. So it's my hope that in 2 or 3 years, we won't just have a beautiful and modern police station, but we'll actually have officers to fill it and give them the resources they need and to have an adequate amount of officers to keep our growing community safe. So I just want to thank the police officers for all the work that they do.
So I was just wanted to bring this up because it was on my mind that the state of Oregon actually approved where you can use speed cameras now. Any cities can. And I think there are a few areas in our community that warrant it, and I've had multiple complaints, like at the intersection of the 2 stores, West Street and Zetterberg's Groceries, where people fly around that corner and it's only 25 miles an hour. Not that, it does twofold. It generates revenue, because it gives them a ticket. And it slows people down without an officer. It's something to look at for revenue. And maybe a few other spots that are these target spots. You know, I mean, if you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law. I mean, I'm being flashed if I'm going fast too and paying a fine. And it does work, so it's something to really think about and look at. As far as a revenue source of maybe also for the police department. 'Cause I don't think that our public works pipe up a sign or radar. Fairly cheap. So working together. Something to think about, yes. Council Berkeley.
Yes, it's, as far as the budget is concerned, I think I'd have to look at our notes, but that, in addition to approving the budget committee, approving the budget, we also made some motions and approved some motions looking at additional sources of revenues that we could fund that third officer's position. So like to assure our police department that we haven't completely given up on filling that position to the best of my recollection, that we continue to look at ways to fund that. I also had an excellent time at the Chamber of Commerce. It was great to see so many people who were involved with the Columbia Economic Team, with the Keep It Local, with our Main Street Alliance, and with our Chamber of Commerce for all the good work that they've done in recognition of the individuals and businesses who were nominated, and for the winners as well. So that was good. And as to the public comment earlier about the request for public records, I welcome that. I think I agree with the speakers. We need to be transparent. And so I welcome that public records request without any hesitation. And with that, I have nothing more to say. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Council Berkeley. So I've just been extremely busy. Of course, I attended the chamber thing as well, and it was very good to see that event back, and very successful. Bob, Jack, and all the other team members that worked tirelessly to get that up and going. You know, I've been extremely busy in my business, but I've been extremely busy trying to put out fires constantly. And even just another storm after, and I can clearly see why I was called a liar that we're putting in encampments, and I've continued to, when I'm tagged, rebut and say absolutely not true. And I continually get the brunt of this, whether you realize it or not. And I know Council President Chilton does too, but after listening to Mr. Koski's finance sheet, I understand where people think I'm a liar. And obviously there was a bunch of money thrown at that meeting. And hors d'oeuvres and snacks. I find that very kind of unprofessional. I feel the presentation after we had squawked, and I thought we actually had a resolution earlier, come back here and actually continue in the evening session was completely out of line. Unprofessional. That's not how we represent our cities on any boards and commissions. And then to get into a hollering match because we find it misleading, and the way it it is very misleading. Matter of fact, my buddy said that they're not for encampments. I'm like, no, that's exactly what it's about. Isolated camp and creating that specific area. And that's true. That is the bottom line. The planning commission is one that came up with that. We have not, the city has been a soft approach, no encampments, we have to adopt these rules. that the state has implemented onto all cities and counties. And very, very frustrating. A lot of effort just putting out those fires for me. And I'm trying to do work and I'm getting tagged and people want to know why I'm not responding. Then they assume it's true because I didn't respond. So I just did a little between the meetings, little viewing. And yeah, it's pretty disgusting. Not what is being said out there because of the half truths. A half truth is a lie. Oh, lying by omission. Only giving them what they want, you want them to hear. And I'm to a point that I've spoke before on this. That kind of behavior needs to be addressed. And we were talking about adopting those rules and it's not acceptable. We appointed these people to represent us. I'm not gonna fight with them. We're dealing with the state law. That's what I thought we left earlier, all good. Do you guys feel the same way? I'm just curious and I would just like a little census. Am I crazy? Was I the only one there? Will somebody else please speak on it?
I mean, I think that there was a disagreement, but I felt like we ended it in a place where we understood that the main prerogative here is to not have a homeless camp, but to fill the need as appropriate and have a plan in place should case law develop where we need to designate an area. That's just my gist of how that went. So, but I think that very easily people's feelings get hurt, especially if they invest a lot of time in it. And I will give Steve one thing. He invested a lot of time in that. And I will give that to him. He sure has invested a lot of time. So I understand why he's passionate and his emotions are tied to it. But at the end of the day, the city council is a legislative body for the city of St. Helens. And we take suggestions and we listen to our constituents and then we make decisions. That's what we were elected to do, is to make decisions and move on. And if I don't get reelected because I made a bad decision, then that's on me.
Yep.
That's where it lies. But we have to move on and we have to, the planning commission needs to move on to other things too. They have a lot of things on their agenda that they want to work on. And I want them to focus on those things. And I think right now they're taking time away from the idea of focusing on the other things, like the historic preservation of downtown. That was on their agenda to work on, in a progressive way also. So I hope that they take this as a time that they can move on to some of the other issues that they're hoping to address. And be productive. So that's, sorry, I know you didn't ask me to go on and on, but.
I'm asking for an observation because it's really driving me crazy. The amount of effort that particularly one person is putting in on this whole thing. And I am constantly being called a liar because this person is contradicting everything we've done and giving a half truth. Half truth is a lie. The full truth. Couldn't even admit, read it. I even read it. He read it, I read it, he read it twice, I read it once. It's on the record. Rewatch it. And unprofessional. I'm just baffled. We've talked about behavior. He even referenced that we were talking about him. It's been 2.5 months ago. It's on the record. Because it kind of was. I'm going to be honest. Doesn't change a thing, does it?
Weeks ago, but
Doesn't change. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And it's been a repeat pattern with this gentleman. And the insanity is wearing on me. Again, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We're adjourned.